It's the Seth Williams Show with Mike Kasoka. And here's your host, Seth Williams and Mike Kasoka.
Oh, man. Welcome to another Monday night. Yeah.
Hey.
Sure as hell feels like a Monday. I don't know what the hell is going on. It's all dark and dreary outside. Awful.
Yeah.
Not that I've been outside. I've seen it from the window. But it looks
but still, it's one of those all four seasons in the same weeks we're about to have. It's going to be 66 Wednesday.
And then I think they're saying 3 to 5 inches of snow on, that's what she said, on Friday.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
It is. But then again, everybody you know who weather is the most important thing in their life has already moved.
Yeah, I don't mind this kind of weather, but the 3 to 5 on Friday kind of sucks. Although, again, that's not like I'm driving anywhere, so what do I have to worry about? But I worry about, like, my wife driving around and all that kind of stuff. But
it's just when you get a taste of it, I'm ready for spring. I'm ready for summer. So, you give it a couple days in a row, and it's like, okay, this could be nice. And then it's gone. It's like, whoa, where'd you go?
We got Paul Orlouski coming up in just a little bit. Of course, we'll talk about his book,
Nice.
Punched, Kicked, Spat On, and Sometimes Thanked. Also talk about some of the news of the day. We'll get into a lot of stuff with Paul. Paul's a great guy. A lot of fun to talk to, so we'll talk to him.
Yep.
Peter Knapp, who we had on last week, young guy who trying to get to all 162 Guardians games, is actually in Arizona at spring training. Was that a game today or whatever?
Wow.
Is it Chicago? Where is he at today? I don't even know where he's at. But he was somewhere. I think he's in Arizona. And he's going to call in and check in with us at some point tonight, either early on or later on. We'll talk to him, find out what he's doing and how his goal is going to raise some money to go to all these games. We'll talk to him. Did you have a nice weekend? Kind of.
No, I didn't kind of. It was family time. It was, we had a loss in the family, so it was a wake and a funeral.
Sorry to hear that.
But it's good to be back, and it's good to be right. It makes you appreciate what you got, like friends and this show and people watching and stuff like that. So I'm glad to be in front of a microphone and not,
James is finally watching on my TV. You can watch us on TV. If you have a Amazon Fire TV or Fire Stick, you can watch on there, the CMS network. You can also watch on YouTube, obviously. But you can watch on TV. We're on the CMS TV network as well. Also, if you don't want to watch the show, and I don't blame you if you have to stare at us, there is that new feature on the website, the SethWilliamsShow.com. There's a listen button on the website now. So you can listen in your car. It works while your screen is locked. So you can actually listen in your car, on your phone. The SethWilliamsShow.com, there's a listen button there. So check that out and do that. James says, sorry for your loss, Mike.
Thanks, James.
Hanging there, Mike. Sorry for your loss. Scott checking in. My wife and I actually tried to go out on Saturday night for a date night.
Nice.
It didn't go all that well. We went to, Wild Eagle Saloon.
Yes, I do.
Broadview Heights. No,
Broadview Heights on 83 there, yes.
Yeah, you and I, 82. You and I tried to be there one time, and it was closed. But we went there. There was supposed to be a country band playing that my wife wanted to see. And I was like, all right. They started 9 o'clock. So we got there at 6:45. Right? That's a little early to see the band because they're not going on until 9. But we were going to maybe grab an appetizer and sit there. She was going to have a beer, and we're just going to hang out and wait to watch the band.
Okay.
We walk in. It was a 2 to 2.5 hour wait to get a table. Now, that's insane.
Yeah, it is.
And not that I don't want to sit around, but I mean, that's a long time to be waiting for a table. 2 to 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And then
go ahead.
No, where the band plays, I don't think they were really serving any food in there, and there was nowhere to stand to watch the band. And the thing is that people getting there to watch the band are literally they're grabbing a table and then they're staying there the entire time, like kind of like we were going to do. And
Right.
so who knows how long we would have waited? But we instead decided, okay, there's only two of us, so maybe we'll wait in the car for a little bit, and maybe they'll call us over early,
Right.
and because there's only two of us, not a big party. And we waited 8:00, 8:15. We go back in. Oh, I'm sorry, it's going to be another hour, hour and a half. It's like, all right, forget about it.
Yeah, that's pretty piss poor customer service.
It is what it is. There are a lot of
If you sell out, you're sold out. Don't lie to people.
And then, so we decided to go down the street to the boneyard, and that was fine. Sat there for a little bit, and went back to the Wild Eagle to try to get a place to watch. There was not a parking space available. People were just circling the parking lot looking for a parking space. Even like the little auto shop next door, the parking spaces were all taken. There's parking spaces. Not one was open. Certainly not a handicap spot, so I would have had to walk a country mile, but I didn't care. I could walk on the leg. And but yeah, there was nothing. So we ended up going home and sitting on the couch at 9:00 at night, as per usual. And yeah, it was not much of a date night. It was still fun. I mean, I enjoy spending. We just don't get enough alone time.
Yeah.
But so it was kind of a bummer. I really want to get out and do something, see a band, go out and have a nice night, but it just didn't seem to be in the cards a lot of the times.
Well, if you're not doing anything Thursday,
yes,
come see me in Strongsville at the local.
That's right.
Things are different. They've got good food there. And not only that, but when we say the show's going to start at 8:00, you're not going to still be dicking around at 9:30, 10, waiting for me to come on, because I don't like pacing around in my green room.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. That should be a fun night. Yeah. So Thursday at the local in Strongsville.
Yes. Yes.
And how do people get tickets? You got to make a reservation for that, right?
Well, there's no cover charge. The band, all the club makes its money off, food and drink. So there's no cover charge, but you have to make a reservation, and you can do that through or on Eventbrite. And that's all I can tell you about that is you got to go to Eventbrite and say you're coming, and that will reserve you a table. And they do a really nice job of putting together groups. And, if you got 2, 6, 10, how many of you are coming out? And it's a good lineup. It's a good show.
Do you know how many comics are going to be there?
I think you will see 6 comics. I think 4 of them are only going to do like 5 minutes. And they're all different. And then
they're funny. Do you know any of the guys? Any guys,
I
girls?
Do. Yes, I do. Nancy Abram is funny. It's her show. She hosts, or she's on the bill. She hosts. Dave Tragone is featuring. He's fantastic. He headlines at other clubs. So you're going to see some up and comers, and a couple of us have been doing it for a while. It's a great show.
James
Well, Thursday night, March 2nd. Come see us.
James said heading up there later tonight as well, and we'll see you Thursday. So that's cool.
Cool.
James won one of Paul Orlouski's book the last time Paul was on.
Wow.
That was a long time ago. That was back in the old studio days.
Yep.
So I'm happier tonight because I'm assuming Paul will not have flies flying around his head.
No. No.
Yeah.
And we don't have to sit there and smell the wonderful barbecue from Smoking Rock and Roll.
That I didn't mind so much. Smoking Rock and Roll, fantastic. The barbecue is great, but there's, the fly action. Man, yes. I miss Billy, though. I miss seeing Billy Morris.
Yeah, he's been busy. I texted him a few times and congratulated him on his shows in Australia. Yeah, as a matter of fact, last month they sent him a thumbs up because he played the local. Most of the month, the locals features bands, but one night a month they do comedy, and it's my turn there. So
he big time.
I've been on the same stage a month apart.
Yeah, he big times me now. He doesn't answer phone calls and stuff. I mean, it is what it is, I guess. Yeah. Maybe he's just super busy, or he's just, too much of a superstar rock guy to talk to little old Seth.
Well, he's pretty down to earth, but I got to tell you, he was busy before all this other stuff.
Oh, I know.
Happening, and before even the swim stuff opened up, he was busy. So
pick up the phone. How about that?
Yep.
Probably not listening, anyways. Mike, sorry for your loss. Keep in my prayers.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you.
Natalie also says, please make the snow go away. Let's see what we'll have Friday.
I would like to do that too. I am dying to play some golf. I don't even care if they go straight. I just want to hit something really hard.
Should not have left the parking space with that many people waiting for tables. Sorry, you had to miss your concert. It wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, but we just don't go out very much. With having a 16-year-old and stuff, it's a lot of time that we're all together as a family, which I love. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love that. I love the family time, but I would like some balloon time, a little date night action every now and then. Went to the West Side Market over the weekend.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I haven't been there in a while, and it was a gorgeous day on Sunday, and everybody and their mother seemed to be there, at least in the parking lot. And I've never seen so many crazy, rude people in my entire life. Like, we were sitting there with, like, the blinker on because we finally, after driving around for 20 minutes, we finally found somebody that's backing out. So we're sitting there waiting with the blinker on, and out of nowhere, this big broad, I mean, she looked like she was whatever, but she just zoomed right into the spot right in front of us from another angle. And then I saw that happen probably 3 or 4 different times to other people that were just waiting. And all of a sudden somebody came up, went in, snuck right in and took the spot. It's a madhouse down there, but it was fun. I mean, I liked it. Saw Munch. Remember Munch? We had Munch on.
Hell yeah.
He was down there with his family. And I saw his one son in his 20s now. And I used to babysit the kid when he was way little. And it was kind of weird seeing that guy, but West Side Market was nice. It was. Have
you ever eaten in the West Side Market Cafe?
I have not. I used the bathroom there over the weekend.
They have good food there. Yes, they do.
I was looking because I wanted to see what kind of stuff they had. Is it stuff from the market or what kind of?
I would assume that it's all locally sourced and stuff like that, and they. Because God knows if there's like, oh my God, we're out of onions. They, it's like 10-minute, walk to go get one and come back. But I'm sure that all the purveyors are from the market, but they've got a really nice menu and they do a really nice job, and it's pretty reasonable.
So I went to. First, you have to go in obviously through like the fruit area if you park in the back, and so you're driving or walking down this fruit part, and they had well, they all have all those stuff, but one lady was like, hey, you want some grapes? I was like, all right. They were cotton candy grapes. And so I tried it. First time I had a cotton candy grape, and it was very tasty.
They are.
And so I said, yeah, I'll take back to those. No problem. And she goes, that'll be $17.50.
What?
I said, excuse me? Yeah, $17.50. I was like, it's a bag of grapes. It wasn't like a super huge bag. It wasn't like a suitcase full of grapes.
Right. No kidding.
It was just a bag of grapes. $17.50. And I looked at it, I said, I'll pass. Forget about it. What? It's grapes. But I got a good deal on strawberries. I got an entire case of strawberries for $10.
That works.
Like 4 big, huge packages of strawberries for $10. Then I realized that how am I going to eat these strawberries, as many as I got, in the amount of time before they go bad?
Yeah.
And
that's why I don't. That's why I don't shop.
Yeah,
that's why I have a hard time shopping at Costco and Sam's Club, because you get a bottle of ketchup you can dance with. It take you 8 years to use it up, and so what? It's $1 off. Everything's like you got to buy 3 or 6 or 10 of.
But I mean, I thought $10 for all these strawberries was a great idea until I talked to my dad later. I was like, yeah, Dad, I got this great deal on strawberries. And he's like, well, how are you going to eat all those real quick? I said, well, what do you mean? We're not going to last that long before they start growing mold and stuff. I said, well, what's going to happen if I eat the mold?
You don't want to know.
You don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that.
And so I have a fridge full of moldy strawberries soon. I better start chowing down.
No, you better get yourself a blender.
I do have a smoothie maker.
Good. Then make yourself a bunch of smoothies and freeze some of that. And
I've never used it.
Don't use just the strawberries. Put in some melon, some ice.
All right. We have Peter Knapp actually on the line, so let's see if we can get a good connection with Peter here and see how spring training is going. Peter, you there?
Hey guys, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but yeah,
Yes.
I'm doing good. How are you
Where
guys?
are you? Good. Where are you?
I am in Mesa. I am in Mesa as the
Mesa,
Guardians are
Arizona.
taking on the Chicago Cubs, and the Guardians are trouncing the Cubs right now by a score of 12-4 as we go to the top of the 8th inning here in Mesa. So it's an offensive explosion so far for the Guardians as they lead the Cubs by a score of 12-4 so far in this
Peter,
ball game.
Peter, think
Yes.
about that for a minute. They hadn't won a game all preseason till you showed up. You're an omen, dude. They had
Hey,
not won
well,
a game this entire preseason, and I checked an hour ago. They were losing 4-3. So if all of a sudden you got there and they scored 9 runs and there was an offensive explosion, they
Yes.
better. You better not. You won't need donations. If the Guardians are smart, they're going to carve out a seat for you on the team plane and just start
Yeah.
taking you everywhere they go.
Absolutely.
That's
Actually,
amazing.
I have pretty soon I will have some really good news to announce on the sponsorship front, but at the moment I don't know if I can announce it or not, so I'm not going to. But I will say in the near future I will have a very positive announcement on that front. So
Well, good.
that's all I'll say for now.
We look
Yes,
forward to hearing.
that's all.
So you better let us know.
Yes. Yeah, I will definitely let you guys know. But yeah, I flew in this morning. I had a direct flight. I had a direct flight to Phoenix, so that was nice. I had a direct flight to Phoenix, but it's almost a 5-hour flight, so it's been a long day. And I landed 90 minutes before first pitch, and then headed out here to headed out headed out here to Mesa, and then I'll be here all week. By the way, I'll be here through Friday. So
Good.
I just posted a ton of pictures on my Facebook page. I'll be posting a bunch of other stuff over the next few days. But yeah, it's been fun. The Guardians are taking care of business in spring training here, and this I gotta say this spring training ballpark here for the Cubs is really cool. It's essentially a replica of Wrigley Field, just on a smaller scale, which is kind of cool. So if for those who haven't had a chance to get out here to spring training, I would if you ever get a chance, I would recommend doing it. I mean, I got a flight out here for $75. I found a flight out here for $75.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, so there are ways to. I mean, it's partly because I've become kind of an expert at finding cheap flights, but yeah, I got a flight out here for $75 this morning, and I'll be here all week. So it's been a blast so far.
Check the schedule. You don't want to sit there at that stadium for a whole week. I think the Guardians are going to move around.
Well, yes, they are. They're going to be. They're going to be. Yeah, they're going to be in Goodyear. They're going to be in Goodyear tomorrow, and then they play the White Sox at the White Sox ballpark, which is at a place called Camelback Ranch, and then we play a couple more games at Goodyear Ballpark. So yeah, so we move around a little bit, but yeah, it's been a fun day today, and the Guardians have taken this Cubs crowd out of it as they now lead by a score of 12-4 in the top of the 8th inning.
All right, Peter, go enjoy the game. Go enjoy the game.
I will. Thank you.
For checking in. And
I will. Thank you.
on Facebook, Peter Knapp on Facebook. Check out all the pictures, and we'll talk to you again very soon. You get that information from me, okay?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Enjoy the game, my friend.
See you, man. Have fun. Thanks for changing their luck.
Peter Knapp checking in from Arizona. That's good. I love that kid.
And I do too, man. And I
hate to say kid.
That wasn't kidding. They haven't won a game all preseason. They've been and they were losing an hour ago.
It's funny. I still call him a kid. The guy's 26 years old now, but when I met him, he was a kid.
Yeah.
But I love that guy, and I'm glad to see him. He's out there enjoying it and
Good for
enjoying
him.
the weather and everything else. So check out Peter Knapp on Facebook. Donate to his cause, trying to get to all the 162 games. But we'll check in with him when he actually has some more information to give us on
his sponsorship.
On his sponsor. Thanks, Peter. Again, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, my friend. James, come on, Jim. Guardians suck. They don't suck.
No.
I know how you feel, but I mean, come on, my friend. Even Triv wouldn't say that. And, I know you had conversations with him about the Guardians, and he was rooting for the name on the front of the jersey, meaning the Cleveland part. So, come on. But I know your opinion. That's fine. Speaking of Jim Scott, first-time caller Jim, love him. One of my dear friends. I hope he feels the same way. He says, go NASCAR. All right, I like NASCAR too, Jim. But he is going to be on Monday debating you on the climate change.
Okay.
We're going to be talking climate change and global warming, and he says he has absolute proof that people that believe in it are nutcases. I'm going to try to stay somewhat neutral, but I probably won't. But you are going to take him on in a debate that hopefully won't get violent, and we'll stay civil.
Yeah.
And we'll have a good time with that.
Argumentation doesn't mean fight.
Yes, but I could see it turning that way.
No.
Scott says, sit down, James. And then Sandy says, I'll tell him when to sit down. That is absolutely true. He should do a podcast on how to get cheap flights.
No kidding. There you go.
Yeah, you can comment on the show on YouTube, whatever. Or if you're watching on the Facebook channel that we're on, you can leave comments there as well. We're also on the CMS TV network tonight, as we will be from now on.
Have you been to Arizona?
My Arizona story, I'll make it quick. I drove across the country when I was probably 16, 17 years old with a buddy of mine because I was going to see my dad who lived in California. And we took the southern route. We went Route 666 and then Route 666.
Yep.
And at some point in Arizona, Flagstaff's in Arizona, right?
Yes, it is.
Somewhere in Arizona, though, it was a desert part because we were miles away from anything. And I kicked the kill switch on this new car that I had. And I didn't know that I kicked the kill switch. I was in the passenger seat. I didn't know that I kicked it. I didn't know it had a kill switch. Yeah. And so I kicked it, accidentally, car stopped, middle of the desert, had no idea what the hell we were going to do. Back then, when I was, you didn't have cell phones back when I was 16 years old.
Right.
And so there was a gas station that wasn't far, but it didn't have like a garage. And plus my car was a brand new Ford Ranger. It was under warranty. And so we had to be towed like 200-300 miles to the nearest Ford dealership. And we were waiting in the desert for quite some time before a tow truck actually found us and picked us up.
Yeah.
We got all the way there. We sat there for literally 3, 4, 5 hours in this garage. And I look in when they finally took my car in, and I see the mechanics just laughing hysterically. I'm like, what the hell are they laughing about? One guy comes out. He's like, come here. Let me show you what's wrong with your car. He's like, you kicked the kill switch. I said, well, what the hell how did I do that? It was right underneath where I was sitting. And he's like, all you had to do is push this button and your car would have started up again. So we sat in the desert for hours in a car that was dead, got towed for hours, and then sat in a garage for hours just to find out if I pushed a button, I would have been able to move my car.
Are you the only person that has ever done that? Because I've never heard that story before. But if Ford was making cars and every one of them had a switch that if your child or your dog, if it was on the passenger side, or your wife was, like you guys were in the parking lot after a date night and people were rolling around in the front seat.
Yeah.
And anybody could accidentally kick a quote unquote kill switch. Yeah. And the car didn't work. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. And the messed up thing was I was playing a game. I was playing it was like one of those handheld like football games from back in the day. Right. And I got excited because I was playing a game and I just moved my feet around in my excitement of winning my game. and I kicked this thing that was underneath the glove compartment, stopped the car, and that ruined the entire day. And I sweat a little bit in that desert heat, in the middle of nowhere, waiting to get towed.
Well, that's
And I
an
felt like a
amazing story.
friggin' ass.
I'm glad I know that about you, and I still can't believe that Ford made cars. Whose idea was it at Ford Motor Company to put a kill switch in the car that just like shut the car? But the reason why I asked if you'd ever been to Arizona is there's a couple things I like about Arizona. The Phoenix Airport has the best name in America for airports. The Phoenix Airport is called Sky Harbor. And if you think about that, that's kind of cool. The thought of all those planes but anyway, the food, it's not Mexican food. It's Southwestern food. Their food is head and shoulders better than, because even the food at the airport, you order Mexican food, Hispanic food at the airport is better than a lot of states in their finest restaurants. But they do stuff with green chilies and different kinds of chilies out there that are amazing.
Yeah, I've never. My only time in Arizona is getting stuck and then
that's
hours upon hours and then driving out of it.
Wow.
We do have Paul Orlouski on the line now.
Cool.
Let's go to Paul.
Hey.
So, Paul Orlouski, how are you, my friend?
Everything's great. Yourselves?
We are good. Isn't this
Mike's bringing up airport food or just airports in general. Carl Monday and I were flying out to the investigative reporters convention in New Orleans. And so I was working on a story, and to eat at the airport anywhere, to get something, you have to have a ticket.
Right.
So we both had tickets. So I told Carl what I was working on. And they checked us and made sure we didn't have any metal on them or any on us and weapons and this and that. And then we went down into the airport concourse and sat down at a restaurant and got a sharp knife to eat a steak. After we had been checked. This was at Hopkins. So, come on, guys. Not
right,
really well thought out, I didn't think.
What do you think about the new setup here? There's no flies flying around, and we can see you, and
you can be comfortable in your own home.
And
yeah, we did have the flies the last time I was on.
Yeah,
we did.
Rough. Yeah,
we had them every time.
Oh boy, you guys. Anyway, but thanks for having me on again. But yeah, sometimes some of these policies, airports, I just thank God I didn't have to fly a lot in my last few years of working. But hey, retirement's pretty good. I'm enjoying it. The checks come on time.
Nice. Yeah, they do.
We wanted to have you on because there's a lot going on in the news, of course, and we'll talk about that and talk about your book. And I saw that you were doing some book signings.
Yeah, that's opened up again, which is kind of nice because you hear from people, and heck, I always enjoyed what the heck I did for a living, and half of that is meeting people. And I'm not to be critical of anybody, but I'm not so sure that the young ones get what Mike does, because Mike, you saw how many times we talked down at the Justice Center, and it's about talking to people, and I can't know everything that's going on down there, but you get to know a bunch of people, Nancy or whoever it is, and you know who the players are, and they're not going to steer you wrong if they know you're going to treat them right, and you try to treat them right, and they'll steer you right. So I think, again, not to be critical, but I'm being critical. You're putting people out on the street right now these days that are, haven't been around the horn a lot, and they think, what's my story today? They go to the assignment desk, they're handed this or that or the other thing, and they go out and make TV out of it, and a lot of them are very good at it. But the grassroots stuff, I don't see it right now. So again, I'm trying not to sound like the old grumpy guy who back in my day, but I'm sounding exactly like that guy.
But I kind of wanted to ask you about what is going on with news today, because I turned on local news a couple times this past week, and I don't know anybody that's on there anymore, with the exception of the Holly Stranos, the Betsy Klings. I don't know any of these people, these reporters. I don't know. They don't look like they used to. They don't talk like they used to. And it seems like a totally different scene. Are they just picking people off the streets that are going to work for less money to do this kind of job? I don't know.
It definitely has to do with less money because I don't know, not to brag or anything like that, but they're probably hired 3 for me, same amount of money when I retired.
Yeah.
And by the time I got to Channel 5 in 1981, I had been at 5 stations. So you learn, you grow, you see other people how they do it, and on it goes. Now kids are getting out of school, and they're smart people. Don't get me wrong, but they have maybe got a year and a half under their belt before they get to Cleveland.
Right.
And it's a rough town. And I have some fears about this. And one of the fears is the fact that they're sending people 24 years old, maybe, out in some bad neighborhoods alone. This whole idea of this multimedia journalist. You're doing everything. You go out, you report the story, write the story, edit the story yourself, and they're very skilled at it. But, if I worked an 8-hour shift, I had 8 hours to think about the journalism. If you're doing those 3 jobs, well, divide 8 hours by 3 because that's how much.
Right.
A third of the time on the journalism, the research, or whatever it is. But it's the way the business is going, and it ties clearly to the fact that the advertising dollars aren't there. Without the car dealers, I'm not sure that they exist.
Pretty much.
But yeah, that at least that's my view of the whole thing. But so many more dollars are going to cable. Steve Craig, who used to work at Channel 5 many years ago, had a great saying about how broadcasters didn't know how to manage their resources, or their money. They used to basically charge, what do we want to charge this year? Because there were only 3 outlets in town. And his analogy was very good. And he said, well, imagine if there were only 3 gas stations in town, called 3, 5, and 8. They can charge whatever they want, right? Well, now you got 150 gas stations in town. They didn't, when it was 3, 5, and 8, they didn't have to be very good managers. They charged what they want, and so it's a good analogy, I believe. And they haven't caught up with the pace of things, it would seem to me. But and the internet has just robbed all kinds of dollars.
I mean, Fox 8, like this one person, Mark, points out, Fox 8 somehow keeps their anchor reporters for years compared to other stations. I mean, yeah, their morning show hasn't changed a whole lot, and they seem to be doing a good job with that. But I watched 19. I had no idea who these people were.
Yeah,
and I loved 19 for so many years, and I still do. But I didn't recognize anybody. It was
way too much turnover. There's no question. Fox 8 took a bad thing that happened to them, and they turned it into a gold mine, because they're by far and away the morning's news leader. I mean, there's not even a race. But years ago, Channel 8 was CBS, and there was the big switch. Channel 19 became the CBS affiliate, and Channel 8 became the Fox affiliate. Well, Fox only provided a couple of hours of programming at night, and that was it. There was no morning show, Today Show, or Good Morning America, or any of that. So they put a morning show on because they had to fill time. And doing local news is cheaper than buying syndication. Syndication can be, very expensive. Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, unbelievable costs. You put news on, and it's cheaper. Well, they had to put all this programming on. Well, then morning news got to be popular, and morning news is the place to go, and people weren't staying up as late, so you have to have morning news. Well, Channel 8 now, by this time, had a 6 or 7 year head start on everybody else. So that negative, I suppose, turned into a huge positive, and they're by far and away the ratings leader in the morning, and it carries through the day, because if people recognize people and they get comfortable with the station, people have their stations. Our parents did, everybody did. In those days there were 3 people, Channel 3 people, Channel 5 people, and Channel 8 people.
I actually got a chance to benefit from what you're talking about when Fox did their morning stuff, because they were looking for programming, and they hired me, and they hired another great comic by the name of Jeff Blanchard And once a week, we were on that morning show doing
Sure.
what was called Fox Unplugged. And
Okay.
it was a comedic look at the week's news.
Yeah.
And they'd let us know what the subjects were. And we'd sit there in a panel and go back and forth, had a great time. But nobody else was doing that. They were doing local programming. We were on the air before Kenny Crumpton even started. And then he
Sure.
started and was part of it. And there was just an awful lot of features there on that you couldn't find anywhere else. I lament the fact now, going back to what you were saying, is that they're putting people out on the street and the language is getting butchered.
Oh.
The malaprops, when they think they're doing an old saying and they misquote what those are, and like sneaks into I'm going to tell you one thing, the three of us and anybody listening, if you want to have an amazing lesson about the way things have changed, go online and watch the old Merv Griffin Mike Douglas shows, and watch how a guest would come on and they would talk paragraphs and at length and use vocabulary that people now are like, oh, and these were just men and women off the street. That was just, and you never heard him say, well, kind of like, and oh my, you will sit there and see the richness of how people talked and communicated, and that's not around anymore.
My dad used to yell at us because if you ever use the term, yeah, I know. Why do you have to say,
Yeah.
Here's one to look out for in today's news, and the networks as well. I'm not picking on local news. They'll say the Cleveland Indians, they are. Well, you already have a noun in your. The Cleveland Indians are.
Yes.
Not Cleveland.
Yes.
They are. And
that's what I mean.
It's on and on and on and on and on.
Again, I'm not trying to pick on anybody either, but I watched a story the other night, and there was a woman reporter, and she was out covering something. I'm not going to even get into what the story was, but she didn't look like she dressed for the news. It looked like she got up, threw on whatever clothes she wanted to throw on, like if she was going to the mall that day, and went out and did a reporting job.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there, you're on TV. What are you doing? I mean, look, we do a stupid show that's on, I guess, on video and stuff, but you don't have to watch us if you don't want to. You can listen to us. But you're on TV, you're on reporting a story, and you dress like you were going to Walmart.
Well, I'll tell you another funny story about that. If you were working on a series or something, they would give you a day or two to work on it. But then something would break, and they would say, well, all right, we can't give you the day to work on your series today. You got to go out. So we had something called defensive dressing. So we would wear, you still wear a jacket, but like no tie and jeans. That meant you couldn't be on TV. So we used to, all reporters knew what defensive dressing was, because it was like, way kind of throwing your middle finger at the assignment desk, like, look, I can't go out today. And so we called it defensive dressing.
That's funny.
Today, I look better than what a lot of
exactly.
Yeah. For this, you were dressed more appropriately than that woman was that I saw. But Triv loved 19 because Dan Solomon was like the greatest guy ever to Triv. And like,
he always trusted me.
Yeah, and the reporters, all you guys were just always there when we needed something. And that's the way news should be. It should be reporting. It should be interactive with radio. It should be
so
people know what's going on. Now, it doesn't seem like that at all. It just doesn't seem like the same even a little bit.
Yeah. So, Salomon was he was a real. I still talk to him from time to time.
Oh, really?
He was a character. Yeah, it was. They never forced you, but it was part of your job to go out and do stuff to promote the station, to promote yourself. And the one thing that doesn't happen anymore, and I gave it up before some did, at various events, whether it be the car show or this or that. In my case, the tall ships came into town. And they'd have you go, and you'd sit behind a little table, and you'd have, your 8x10s that you would sign for people, or some postcard thing you would sign for people. And the stations had giveaways, so like Channel 3, 5, or 1943 balloons that you'd give out. And so people would come, and when they used to come up to the thing, you'd be sitting there behind this table, and people would talk about you like in the third person. And the guy would look at the wife and say, "Now, which one's he?" You felt like an animal in the zoo, right?
Yeah.
Now there's your picture right there and your name, but then which one's this one? Who's this guy's name? Still fine. Well, one time we were at the parade of what do they call it? The parade of ships, I think, down at North Coast Harbor, and we had like balloons and some pens we were giving away, and it was a hot day, so we had these little packets of sunscreen. Good idea, and something else. No, I don't remember what it was. So this one guy goes through, and he says, "Let me have a couple of them ink pens, and a balloon, and 2 or 3 of them condoms." was just what they want to go Channel 19 condoms,
right?
I said, "That's it. I'm done with the booths. No more booths for me," and I haven't done one since. Or even after that was 10 years before I retired. I said, "Oh my gosh!" But it is community involvement and this and that. The WVIZ auctions and all that good one. Every reporter in town will go down and do that, and it was fun, and it was camaraderie. I know all the street reporters and photographers back in the day because that's who we would see out on the street. We wouldn't always see the anchors or other people in the house. So there was a lot of that going on, a lot of camaraderie in that way, and and a lot of drinking after work too, which also doesn't exist anymore, and that's probably a good thing. But we used to go down to the Headliner Bar at 17th and Superior.
There you go.
Which sadly is now a Subway. But
I like Subway.
Down there and talk to the plain dealer reporters, and they have a drink too many, and they kind of talk a little too much about a story they were going to do, and I do it before them. It was just it was a different thing, a whole different thing. And again, I keep trying not to mention back in the day.
Right.
But it is. I mean, Scott wants to know. Cleveland used to be like Fifth and Market size, not so much anymore. Is that part of it? The quality of reporters.
I think it only got up to about number 7. So, but nonetheless, it was
still pretty big market. Yeah.
When I first started applying here, because it took me a while to get hired, Cleveland was probably number 9 or 10. When I was hired, it was number 12, and I think now it's probably 19 or 20. And it has nothing to do with Cleveland or the DMA, area of dominant influence, DMI. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that other towns have grown. We've stayed static. I think we're about 1.5 million in the 19 counties that we covered. But think about it: Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, Charlotte have all gone past us.
Yeah.
So we've remained static. But no, he's right. But the bigger impact on the salaries is just advertising. The revenue's divided, the pie's divided in too many different ways.
The book is called Punched, Kicked, Spat On, and Sometimes Thanked. Natalie wanted to know, where can you get the book?
I got a bunch of them here.
Well, we'll send some people over to your house.
Here we go. We'll just put your address up.
Yeah. Basically, and that does sum it up. I did leave out shot at, because I was shot at twice, because I thought that was bragging. Punched, Kicked, Spat On, Sometimes Thanked, Memories of a Cleveland Street Reporter. Amazon has it. Actually, a lot of the drug marts have it. I think they have it a couple bucks off. Not all of them, but some of the drug marts have it. Books A Million, I know, in is that Rocky River? Yeah, Rocky River. What am I? Barnes and Noble. So yeah, it's around. That's for sure. But it's probably 250 or more. Just stories about dumb stuff I've done. I probably told you, some of the dumber stories, because my big mouth got me in a lot of trouble. I was down at Reagan's inauguration, and I was going to cover the parades, because the parade had local kids in it, and some mounted units, various police agencies and stuff. The Brunswick Band was one of them. So we're going to cover that. So I'm down there with a cameraman, and this is the one where they canceled the parade, because it was 2 degrees. So it'd be January of '85. And so the station had sent me and a camera guy down there, and they want a story. So they go, well, we'll find something. So I'm out in front of the White House, and I'm talking, trying to do my stand-up. And they were wiring down the sewer caps because they were worried about somebody throwing a smoke bomb down there to disrupt the parade. And today we'd be worried about ricin or something, nuclear or something, But anyway, we're worried about that. They were worried about that. So I'm doing my stand-up, and it's 2 degrees. I can't get it right. I just can't get it right. And the cameraman's like, "Come on, U.S. Come on, I'm freezing. Get it done." Right. So I'm almost done with a good take. This guy jumps out of a limo. He says, "Hey, man, where are you from? What's going on?" So he wrecked my take. So I say, "Hey, pal, why don't you take an effing hike?" Puts his hand out and goes, "Hi, Mike Love at the Beach Boys."
Whoa.
You know, dumb stuff like that. You run into a lot of stuff. I mean, you know, I'm just some kid from a small town, and you know, I met a lot of people, and religiously. I mean, I interviewed Tutu, Mandela, Farrakhan, bunches of people. You know, bunches
That's
of folks.
great.
Yeah, it's just who would have thought, right?
When
And I was a kid that would in high school, senior year, if I had to give a presentation in front of the class, I'd figure out a way to get out of it.
wow.
I was very shy.
What did you want to do when you were young?
What's that?
What did you want to do when you were young?
You know, when I was 16, a kid in my high school, my father wanted to be an engineer. He's a mechanical engineer. But a kid in my high school had a job in a radio station. And I say, "How'd you get that job?" And he said, "Well, you got to get a license because you have to know how to run the transmitter." So I went up to the FCC office and took the test. I passed the test and got the license. So the summer between my junior and senior year in high school, I saw him on the street. I said, "Hey, how's it going at the radio station?" And he says, "I'm going to quit this week." I said, "Why are you quitting?" He said, "I got drafted. I'm going to Vietnam."
Wow.
This will be the summer of '69. I'm 16. And so I said, "Well, do you care if I go apply for your job?" And he said, "What do I care? I'm going to Vietnam." So I went up to the radio station. The guy tore off some wire copy off the old teletype machine, had me read it. He said, "Is Joe your father?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, well, you start Saturday morning." It was $1.60 an hour.
There you go.
I thought I was going to be the big time, big city disc jockey. I think the first Honky Tonk Woman was number one. So that's probably the first record I played. But
Wow.
yeah, $1.60 an hour.
Wow.
You know, that's crazy because my daughter just started working.
Okay.
And she's working at a, I'm not going to say the name of the place, but she's working at a fast food place.
Uh-huh.
And she's making $13 an hour. And she doesn't have to work the grill. She doesn't have to do anything. I mean, her job is literally to hand some stuff out a drive-through window.
Yeah.
And making $13 an hour. And you sit back and you think, man, that's an entry-level wage, first-time job ever. And that's the kind of money she's making. And it's shocking to me.
It's hard to stay out of broadcasting.
Yeah. She's taking a broadcasting class at school.
Good.
And I think it's great. She's doing like morning announcements and she's learning TV stuff. Actually, a lot of behind the camera stuff and on camera, a lot of everything with broadcasting. And I told her, it's great. I love it. I love seeing on camera. You're doing a great job, but don't follow this path right now. It might get better. God willing, it gets better. But right now, keep your mind on other things as well.
Yeah. It does build self-confidence. I mean, I was the kid who wouldn't stand up in front of the class, and now I'm, here in Cleveland, chasing people down the street with a microphone and talking to you guys, which is fun.
That was the same thing for me when I started going to broadcasting school. I was terrified to get up and just give a speech.
Yeah.
And a few years later, I was in front of a crowd at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse or Gund Arena, whatever it was back then, in front of 20,000 people bringing on the band. And so, broadcasting does bring something out of you that you may not have had before.
Probably not. Some sorts of, Mike, you can talk to this. Some of that background is probably a great preparation, I suppose, for law or for even comedy. You gotta know how to present something.
People always asked about what carried over in this, that, and the other thing. And for me, the most important thing, and you have to do that in broadcasting, and you certainly had to do it on the street. What it did was take down the inhibition about talking to strangers for the first time.
Yeah.
When you don't have 20 minutes to introduce yourself to an audience that paid to come see you. You got to talk to them like you know them from the first sentence. And so that was the part that you have the confidence to do that. The other thing that gives you confidence when you're on stage is you can't see past the fourth row. So when there's a few hundred people in that room and you can only see, a tenth of them, The rest of that's blind faith, and I use that pun intentionally. But that's what carried over, is being able to communicate, and it's a lot of what Seth said, and it's a lot of what you do, used to do on the street. When something happens and you're interviewing witnesses, you talk to who's ever close to you, and you don't know what they're going to say, but what you get them to say or get them to open up, and that's the art form right there. So
the biggest mistake that the young ones make, and my former cameraman Marty, we worked together every day for 19 years. He says it's because nobody could stand me. I say it's because none of the other reporters could stand him, and none of the other photographers could stand me. He's probably right. But the biggest mistake they make, you get to a scene and there's, it's hectic, something's going on, and right. They'll walk up to somebody and say, "Can we talk to you for a minute?"
Don't give them the out.
You've given them the opportunity to say no.
Say no, exactly.
You just go, "Hey, what'd you see? Hey, what happened?"
Right.
Again, I go back to the law. There's probably a wrong way to answer a question when you've got somebody on the stand, because you're giving the opportunity to say no or not explain.
Well, here's the one I wanted to ask you, because when Seth told me you were coming on the show, I thought, great, it'd be good to talk to him again. But then what I need to know is, have you followed at all any of the Murdoch trial that's been going on?
My wife more than me.
Okay. Because he took the stand, and I don't know.
I saw some of that. He's a skilled lawyer. And
but I was going to ask you, with all the experience you have and all the conversations we've had after trials in the Justice Center, what you thought of how that went, or if that was risky. I'm really curious, because I'm not so sure, even after what he did, if I was his lawyer, I would have. But then again, it's one of those things where you have to let them, otherwise it doesn't go their way. It's your fault. So
I thought there are various of the little bit, I didn't watch it all, but there are a couple of points where he would give these kind of vague answers. And if I was the guy grilling him, the prosecutor, I'd say, "Sir, yes or no?"
Thank you. And here's the other one. I can't believe they missed this one. They closed before he took the stand by making a big deal out of the fact that, well, it couldn't have been him because he's taller than 3'8", and the angle of the shot was and then the first thing he said was, "I rode down there in a golf cart."
Yeah.
And the prosecutor never said, "By the way, how tall are you when you were sitting in a golf cart?"
Yeah.
They never even made that connection.
It seemed to me, and again, you're more skilled in this than I, but the prosecutor wasn't real sharp, I didn't think. Again, I didn't watch it all, so but I mean, at some point in time, and I did not intentionally kill my wife and son. Sir, what does intentionally mean? Come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's because you were addicted to drugs. Okay, fine.
Yeah. I thought there was some, what's the word? Opportunities missed.
Exactly. So did I.
Yeah. See, I watched quite a bit of that, and it seems like the prosecutor is more interested in saying, "Well, you're a liar. You lied to these people. You lied to your friends. You lied to family. You lied to your clients. You lied. Well, his point is, well, fine. I'm a liar, and yes, I cheated people out of money, but I didn't kill anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, after the first two examples of him lying, you proved he's a liar. Move on to something else. Yeah. I think you can bore a jury too. They turn it off. All right, we know he's a liar. Stop. Move along.
Yeah, it's been nonstop. And I kind of wanted to get in with some of that new stuff with the media. I mean, there's a lot coming out with the. I'm trying to word this right so we don't get banned off of any channel. The past couple of years, the media has said, "Don't trust the science, trust this, trust that." Now all these reports are coming out that maybe the virus came from the Wuhan lab, that maybe immunity does work. But why did the media try to cover stuff up? Why is the media the way that it is now? There's such a change, I think, in the way media reports things now as opposed to back in the day. Back in the day, there was a 70% trust rate of news people in this country. Now it's down to like 7%. Because the media does things differently. Why is that? Why do they have a bias now in media? And I'm saying on both sides. that they didn't seem to have before, or did they? We just didn't know it.
Well, no, I don't think they had it in the past, but I think it's funny you say that the 70 versus the 7. That's almost direct correlation to the ratings. That's how many people are watching TV now and how many used to watch TV. It all got started with the CNN versus Fox, and other stations now filters down to the local level. We're either going to take this bent or that bent. My thought was always this: here's what this side says, here's what that side says. Who cares what Paul Orlouski thinks? Make up your mind. You got a mind. You don't have to be lockstep in with Fox or lockstep in with CNN. And that's the way it used to be. And there's another thing going on in news that I started to find troubling. It's from the outside looking in now. In let's say the 80s on into the early 90s, the sales department wouldn't dare come down into the news department and try to affect the story. I mean, I've done stories that have lost the stations tens of thousands of dollars. Nothing was ever said because the story was true. Now, come on, you see what goes on.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a great news story, and guess where we are? We're over here at this or that furniture store, and and they've got a great sale. Well,
yeah,
don't say
that's an advertisement. That's not news. And again, back to the old Paul the dinosaur.
Yeah, I mean, we were told numerous times on the radio that if it was a negative story about somebody that was a sponsor, we were told, hey, watch what you say. Yeah, well, it's a news story. But if they're spending money, we don't want to hurt their feelings, then, you can't do it. And I always thought that was kind of weird. I mean, good or bad, we're a news station. You got to report the news.
Yeah, and that didn't used to exist. But again, I'm going back 30 years here, 25, 30 years. But it changed, I'm saying, in the mid-90s. Maybe on a little after that.
Yeah. I want to get into some of the good stories that you have, because a lot of people maybe not have heard them the first time that you were on, and I think they're very interesting. But we got to take a quick break. So can you hang on for just a couple?
Love to.
All right, we'll be right back with Paul Orlouski. Hang on.
What separates Triv's Restaurant in Strongsville from everybody else? Some restaurants you go to eat the same thing over and over and over. But then there are restaurants like Triv's, where you want to go there every single time and eat something different until you have eaten every single item on the menu. Why? Because the food's delicious, and it has been for almost a quarter of a century. Triv's has amazing food, outstanding service, and an opportunity for you to have private dining, special events, and intimate occasions. You can enjoy a memorable fine dining experience in your own dedicated, intimate space. Visit Triv's in the heart of Strongsville. Call now for reservations, 440-238-8830. Triv's in Strongsville. Joe Burdick custom flags are amazing. Each flag is handcrafted to reflect the imperfect perfection, making each piece of patriotic wall art unique. This is a local small business, veteran-owned and proud. Joe Burdick creates symbolic artwork that is built to last. Display your spirit, pride, and patriotism by calling 440-305-2065 and let Joe's flag serve you. 440-305-2065. Joe Burdick Flags. Let me introduce you to Charlie's Auto Repair. Any car, any truck, any problem, Charlie's does it right. You know how it is. The check your engine light comes on, you put air in the tires, and the light is still on. 216-470-0170. That's Charlie's Auto Repair, 13728 Madison in Lakewood. Charlie can do it all, from small engine repair to fleet maintenance and system diagnostics. Winter is here, so call Charlie's Auto Repair for snow plowing needs. 216-470-0170. Charlie's Auto Repair. Let Charlie make your car great once again.
Back here on the Seth Williams Show with Mike Jasocka, Paul Orlouski, our guest. The book is called Punched, Kicked, Spat On, and Sometimes Thanked. Go to Drug Mart, Amazon, get the book. It's fantastic. I know James, one of our faithful watchers, viewers, listeners, whatever you want to call, said it's a great read. He won a book actually last time that you were on, so he was very excited about that.
I don't use a lot of big words, so that's why it's an easy read.
Okay. Well, that's why I like it, because it's real simple for a guy like me.
I don't know, because I don't know a lot of big words.
Some of the big stories that you covered, I know that we talked about it a while ago when you were on, but some people haven't heard them. The Amanda, Gina, Michelle story. I mean, you were on the scene, right? Tell the story about what happened there.
Well, they were found I had done a live shot in the 5 o'clock news. So I had just gotten home, sat down, poured a little glass of wine, and my phone rang. And the girls were found about 6:03. I got the call about 6:10. So I had a good source. And said, hey, we found those girls. I said, what are you talking about? He says, Amanda and I said, well, I said it. I said, what are you talking about? Amanda and Gina Jesus? He said, yeah. I said, no kidding. And he said, yeah, and the third girl. And I said, another body? Well, because I assumed after 10 years that, they had been killed. Yeah. He goes, no, alive. I said, okay, I'll call you right back. So I got in my car, I was driving like a maniac downtown. I called Dan Salamone. I said, Dan, throw everything you've got at this story. Get over there right now. Gave me the address, and which they did. And so I sped downtown, got there, and we already had a crew on the scene. And we were like 45 minutes ahead of all the other stations. And it was just like a joyous, it was amazing. The people, they couldn't believe that, they had been right there in their neighborhood. It wasn't those girls' neighborhood, but where they had been held by Castro. And so we just continued reporting until probably by the time we broke on the air, it was probably 6:20. And we were there until probably 2:30 in the morning. I went home for a couple hours, slept, and then back. But then it had become a national story, but all the nationals hadn't gotten there. So I was doing all kinds of phone reports for CNN, Fox, this one, that one, the other one. And to be honest, it's kind of a blur. So I went home and slept. I never did finish that wine for a couple of days. One of the funnier things about it was doing all this national stuff.
Yeah.
I talked to the BBC Scotland, the BBC London, the BBC Wales, Finland radio. I had this call from Japan, and this supposedly was the guy who was the Japanese anchor or reporter for Japanese radio. He supposedly spoke English. Well, he's asking me these questions, and I can't make heads or tails out of it. And so I'm trying to be nice to the guy. And so he says, Paul, blah, 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 blah. I could pick up a few words. I said, well, if you're asking me, how did I find out about it? I'll tell the story I just told you guys. He said, well, ask me another question. I could hardly make it out. And I said, well, if you're asking me what was it like that night, and I answered the question. Well, then he said something like, and I thought I heard the word fire truck in this question. I said, you know what? This is probably like Howard Stern or something. And they're going to be playing this thing for the next 20 years saying, remember when we got that idiot reporter in Cleveland? So I hung up on the guy. It probably was the real guy because they did call back, but I said, because they had a country code. I said, no, I'm not going to be humiliated for the next 10 years. You got to have a little, I tend to be a little wary of certain things.
Yeah. That was a crazy night because I remember when Triv called me.
Yeah.
He found out from a source that he had. Might have been the same source. I don't know. But he called me. He's like, they found the girls. I was like, what? And he told me who they found. And I was like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And luckily, I was on my way home. We had the Indians on that night.
Right.
And so I went home and cracked open a beer as soon as I possibly could because I knew that if I was at least drinking, they couldn't tell me to come in. And it was like, that's because I knew it would be it would be like a 24-hour thing. So the next day was crazy. But yeah, that was a hell of a story. And
Yeah, it was. But again, as we talked about earlier, it comes from working sources, knowing people. They trust you. They know you're not going to stiff them. You know, you develop these relationships, and when you've only been in town for 3 months, you're not going to have those types of relationships. And
you mentioned one other thing that's really important too, and I think Seth understands this in his line of work, and it's certainly the same when you're doing comedy, and it's part of what's missing when I watch the news today. And you said you were in a store and you said it was all a blur. And that's because when you're real and you're genuine and you're doing it the right way, you're not standing off to the side watching what's going on and watching what you're doing. So afterwards, people will tell you, oh, you said this, you said that. Great question. And you don't even know that you did it and that's what's missing. So anybody who was in broadcasting school or wants to be a news person or is on the air now, if you've never experienced that, you got a ways to go. And that's one of the things, Paul, that I think is why the city loves you, is because you always made them feel that they were part of the story or they were there because you were a conduit, not a add-on.
Well, I hope so. I'll tell you a funny story about not knowing what you just said. I was down on the floor of the convention, and some other live shot crapped out. Says, "Hey, can you kill a minute and a half?" This was in one of the 4 or 5 o'clock news. It wasn't the main newscast, but do something about who's there. So because I'm down on the floor, so I see everybody. So they throw to me, and I start talking about, well, I saw this one. So this one's here, this one's there, and then I said, I saw Bruce Jenner is here. Or, I'm sorry, I said whatever he's calling himself these days. I didn't know I said it, so that was kind of the end of live shot. Nobody said anything to me. My phone rings. It's my wife. What is wrong with you? What are you talking about? Do you know what you just said? I said, oh, yeah, I did, didn't I? Luckily, nothing ever came of it. But,
right.
These days, you got to be careful. But I had no idea that I said it. I was just riffing,
Right.
Yeah. When you're in the midst of it, you don't necessarily remember.
Anthony Soul, another story that you covered, correct?
Oh, yeah. The weirdest thing about seeing the bodies come out day after day after day was weird. And buried here and there, and then the police, the fact that the one woman had jumped out the window, and because she was a poor black crack addict, they didn't believe her. But the weirdest thing was when we went to court and stood in court, I was 10 feet away from Anthony Sowell. And you just look at the guy. I'm standing not too far away from a guy that murdered 11 people. And again, back to Mike, you've been in court with some heinous people. And it's like man's inhumanity to man. It just struck me. Another guy that's very much like that was Lundgren. Jeffrey Lundgren, the Kirtland cult killer from back in the 90s, I guess. I've never seen anybody with dead eyes. When that guy walked by me at the Lake County Sheriff's Department, honest to gosh, I really felt like the temperature in the room went down 10 degrees. He's just dead eyes. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And I mean, I've witnessed executions. They weren't as chilling as I covered Jeffrey. I didn't witness his execution. It was chilling.
Scott texted in and said, what was your experience with 9/11?
What did I do on 9/11? Well, I was working at night, and so I was in bed, and my wife said, hey, a plane just hit the World Trade Center. And so I said, oh, yeah, that happened at the Empire State Building many years ago after the war. B-25 Mitchell had run into the Empire State Building. So maybe, 22 minutes later or something like that? Another plane just hit the other tower. Says, I'm going to work.
Yeah.
And so I drove downtown and we did whatever we could. And Denise DeFala and a camera person, immediately started off for New York, and they did get down there to be. I think they were over in Battery Park looking at Manhattan. But we just, trying to find people with connections to it, and we knew there were certainly local victims in the building. But again, much like what you said, Mike, that's another day that's kind of a blur, and probably to most Americans as well. But the way it started was second one hit. I said, okay, I'm going to work.
Yeah.
What's the funniest story in your book that you could talk about as far as being spat on when you talk about being spat on?
That wasn't funny.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Well, it's kind of funny. I mean, it is funny when you look back at it now.
Funny to you.
Funny to the rest of
when,
us. Yeah, right.
It's funny when I read in the book. I'm sorry.
No, I'm teasing you. Well, the funniest story. That's interesting. One of the funnier ones was just when I was first in town, because so many people used to watch the news back in the day. Was this old fella? I was on Public Square. I'd only been in town for about a year. And he goes, "Hey, Orlouski." I said, "Hey, how you doing, buddy?" He said, "I'm Orlouski too." I said, "Hey, that's good." I said, I bet you don't spell it like me." "You're damn right I don't. Everybody wants to put a Y on it on the end of it now, because everybody spells their name Lowski, and mine's got Lusky.
Yeah.
Said, everybody wants to put a Y on the end of it now. Every time I go to the bank, they screw up my name, and it never happened until you got to town. In those days, those old ethnics will tell you exactly what they're thinking.
Right.
You didn't have to,
Right.
and something interesting though, from let's say 1982, you'd go into certain neighborhoods. This is still a lot of post-war people living there, and you'd ask them questions, and they looked at the media as being an arm of government. You'd have people see the media, because they came from Europe, pre and post-war Europe. They didn't trust the media, which is an interesting vibe for me. The funniest story probably is Dorothy Fuldheim. She did her commentaries. She was supposed to be 2 minutes and 10 seconds at 6 o'clock, and a minute and 10 at 11. And I was both the 11 o'clock reporter as well as the producer of the news at 11 o'clock. And so Dorothy was always going long. Well, I figured out pretty quickly that she'd do two topics. Typically they were Reagan or the Saudis. And so one night we had a lot of news happening, and I had to have something, I needed more time. So I said to the director, long time director, I said, "Hey, once she's done talking about Reagan," I said, "boom, cut her." He said, "You're playing with fire, Junior. Nobody cuts Dorothy." I said, "She'll never notice. She doesn't watch the 11 o'clock news." So he did it. No problem. Nobody ever said anything. So then I do that every other week. Well, one night they would tell you we had all these scripts down the board in those days. And so he'd say, "Junior, you're 2:11 long." So that meant you had to go cut some scripts and retype some scripts. And it was going to be a lot of work. Kill this story or kill that. I went down the board, and miraculously, Dorothy was 2:11. So I take her script off the thing. I throw it in the garbage. I said, "Well, problem solved." He just looked at me, shook his head. She never found out. So I would do that maybe once a month, but not very often. So one day I go into work, and Lou Maglio sat next to me. And Lou said, "Orlo, did you kill Dorothy last night?" Or he didn't say, "Did you cut Dorothy last night?" And I said, I'd done it so often I couldn't remember. I said, "Yeah, I think so." He said, "She's been down here like 5 times. She's loaded for bear. She's looking for you." I said, "What? Did you cut?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I did." He goes, "Completely?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Nobody cuts her completely." I said, "Well, I had a lot of news. I had to." He goes, "Well, she's looking for you." So I said, "Well, keep your eyes open." So maybe 30 minutes later, here came Dorothy. The door of the newsroom swung open, and Dorothy was very short. And we had these dividers between our desks. So Lou said to me, he goes, "Orlo, here she is." I don't know what motivated me. I kicked my chair back. I went down on all fours and hid under my desk. And so Lou covered for me. So Lou says, "Oh, Miss Fuldheim, how are you? Which one is the producer?" "Oh, have a nice day, Miss Fuldheim." I said, "Which one is the producer?" He said, "Oh," and Lou didn't even give up my name. Everybody calls me Orlo. He goes, "Oh, that's the big O, Miss Fuldheim." He goes, "Well, where's the big O?" And he said, "Oh, he's out on a story right now, Miss Fuldheim." So now I'm down on all fours. I'm looking up at Lou. I'm going, good. I'm giving him a thumbs up. And so, "Well, you tell the big O to come see me when he's back or he's fired." He goes, "Okay, we'll do, Miss Fuldheim." I never went to see her, and she forgot. Now, the
You know what?
side, Oh, go ahead.
Finished your story.
No, it's different. It's a different story about Dorothy.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
I was going to say there was opportunity there for a great joke too, but nobody thought about it at the time. When she said, "Where's the big O?" He should have said, "Getting that juice down to Lawson's in 40 hours."
Oh, that's a there's a
Cleveland joke.
Yeah, that's right. But on a different note, everybody's seen the video for throwing Jerry Rubin off her show when he called the police pigs. But one night it was about the Cleveland. We thought the Cleveland Press was going to fold, but we could not figure it out. And all the stations were trying to figure that out, and we couldn't figure it out. So one of the camera guys radioed back that he saw a live truck in front of one of the other stations. I was at 5. Might have been Channel 3 live truck in front of the Cleveland Press. And we go, oh boy, maybe they know something. And so at 6 o'clock, we're all there, we're watching the news, and Dorothy came through to go do her commentary at about 10 minutes after, but she was going out to the studio. She walked by and she said to me, "What's everyone looking at?" I said, "Well, Miss Fulltime." Everybody called her Miss Fulltime to her face, mother behind her back. Miss Fulltime, we're trying to figure out, it's a Cleveland Press that's going to fold. We've been trying to run it down for a couple of days, and we can't figure it out. Would you like me to find out? And I said, well, yeah, that'd be great. So she goes, get me a telephone. So, there was a phone right there. So we got the phone, kind of genuflected, handed it to Miss Fulltime. She made a phone call. And she said, Herb Cam, please, who was the publisher, editor, whatever, in charge. And then she slams her phone down, her hand down after a couple of minutes, says, I must speak to him. It's Dorothy. 20 seconds go by. Herb, it's Dorothy. Is it true? I must know. She goes, thank you. And she looked at me and she goes, it's true. We went with the story. She went out to the studio, dusted the commentary that she had written down, it was on a teleprompter, and talked for 2 minutes off the top of her head on one of the most eloquent things I've ever heard in my life about the demise of journalism and competition and news and stuff like that. So that on all fours is probably my favorite. Most big investigative reporter, right? Real brave guy hiding from a woman who's like 4'8" or whatever she was.
What was the newsroom back? What was it like back in the day? Because like I see now, obviously these media companies are firing people left and right, and a building like we had in Independence, it started out completely full, and every desk in the newsroom was taken. Yeah. To all of a sudden, nothing was taken, and we ended up leasing out the building to other people. Right? Well,
you would go to a fire at night, and there'd be WZAK would be there. What was it? TAM. There'd be 5 radio stations. Yeah. And 3 TV stations at a fire at night. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. Right. And so a lot of changes, in that regard. But the newsroom when I got there, I was the anchor man down in Youngstown, and I wanted to move up to Cleveland. I've always been a Cleveland Browns fan and love Cleveland. Got the job here, but you had to figure out a way to get on the air because you were dealing with some experienced people who've been here for a long time, or if they were new here, they've been at other markets and knew a lot. So, you had great city hall reporter, the various beats, school board, this and that. So you had to figure out a way. So I kind of started by kind of finding, funny features. I do a feature and they'd kick it in, stuff like that. And then eventually you kind of work your way in, but you weren't just put on the air just like that. You had to work because they were experienced, good people. Which helps you from the standpoint of competition, but it makes you be a better reporter and better on your feet. And the other part about that is watching all those good, experienced people. And I think, I don't see the willingness in some of the younger ones maybe to listen anymore. Because I think maybe they know the answers, and maybe people look at me that way. I don't know, but it's just a different environment. And again, I always have to go back to the economics of it. If you're hiring somebody that's got 15 years under the belt, they're not going to work for $42,000 a year.
Let me ask one other question though too, and it's a look forward instead of just what's going on now. There's a famous scene in the movie American Graffiti where the camera has 15 faces in frame and they're all crying. And you don't know what everybody's crying about. And the camera pans around behind them and they are all looking at an appliance store that has a bunch of TVs in the window.
Yep.
And they're watching the Kennedy assassination coverage on the news. I think the demise of news is breaking down the fabric that makes us Cleveland, Boston, Houston, because of the local flavor. And not only that, but everybody knows what's going on, or everybody knows what the stories are.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the split between in the 90s between Fox and CNN and all the media having their own point of view. Instead of, like you said, accepting or learning from all sides, the majority of the younger ones coming up have decided, I don't need to know any of it. And so now they don't follow the news at all.
Correct.
So my point is, how are we going to ever be common fabric, current events? I mean, it's hard enough now when you try to go someplace or find out information. Every website has everything except a phone number. You can't pick up the phone and talk to anybody. Like,
True.
what are you around? So how do you see looking forward everybody that doing what
Their
you
own
did?
thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to sound cliche, but I mean, isn't the linchpin of a democracy an educated electorate?
Exactly.
And that's 101, and it doesn't exist any longer. One thing is funny. Some news directors, even back 10 years after the Kennedy assassination, because I was in the news by then, they say, well, go down to the May Company and see if anybody's looking in the window. And you're kind of like, that doesn't exist anymore, even then, But I understand exactly what you mean about that, watching the Kennedy assassination. I mean, everybody didn't have a TV. And to extrapolate that, take that farther down the road, back when I was in the news, not everybody had one of these. And they didn't have it already. Walter Cronkite had a saying many years ago, and it had to do with the fact that television was intended to be a headline service. You were expected to go then read a newspaper and maybe Time or Newsweek or a periodical to educate yourself to get more. Well, the periodicals, kind of went away.
Right.
Newspapers are, dying, like they're 5 years ahead of television was dying. And so now television there for a while became the main source. And now television is not the main source. This is your main source. And many of these things, they're not journalistically thought out. They've got an opinion. This one says this angle, that one says that angle.
I also think that cable did the same thing to the news that it did to comedy. When the news was on at 5 and 11, the last thing people would do was watch the news, turn it off, go to bed.
Yep.
And editorials back in the day were always on the weekends because they gave you a whole week to think about all the stories that you had been told for the week. When you have to produce 24/7, a lot of, pardon my French, a lot of crap got on the air. It was the same thing with comedy. They had to fill 24/7. There were a lot of horrible comics that were on. And people sat at home and said, I'm not going to a club and paying $20 a ticket to watch that. Right. Or they sat there and said, why bother? I can sit here and just see it all for free. Well, the news, same thing happened because 24/7, it opened up to all kinds of places that called themselves journalists or called themselves a news service. And they didn't even have the credentials to be teleprompter readers. Now, in comedy, I kind of hope that the pendulum's swinging backwards the other way. And I hope the same thing happens in news, that people get curious again and look for an investigative reporter or somebody like a Walter Cronkite. And maybe that'll happen that way. I just don't like the idea of everything drifting off into the cloud.
I think the people will ask me quite a bit, Do you miss it? And my answer is kind of always the same. I miss what I used to do, but what I used to do really doesn't exist anymore.
There you go.
3 days of me with a camera guy in a sweaty van,
There you
looking
go.
at trying to see something. And sometimes the stuff doesn't work out. Like many times, some of the most funny, I think, stories in the book are when I got caught by the police trying to spy on them, when I got caught by somebody trying to do something. Those are funny stories.
Yeah.
I had my wife one time this chiropractor was prescribing all kinds of pills. So we took a camera guy who was fit as fiddle, had a doctor check him out. He's got no health problems. And so we sent him in with his wife, who supposedly his wife, fake wife, which was my wife. And she had a purse with a bag and with a camera in it. So they go in and this and that, and this guy's telling him this and that and the other thing. Well, my wife is in there with this camera guy who she didn't even know. And the doctor says, all right, well, take your clothes off. And my wife is very proper. So somehow they talked their way out of it. But the bottom line is, we did the story. It had nothing to do with my investigation. But years later, he was sent to prison for, pill pushing, basically.
Yeah.
And then another stupid one on my part was somebody told me that this chief of police was running a hot dog stand at a plaza not far from the police station on duty. So, okay. So we go check it out. We spent a couple days. I took an intern one day down there, and she went up and bought a couple of hot dogs and this and that. And I look at his picture and this and that. And he said, yeah, we're almost ready to go confront the chief when he wasn't or maybe we'll just confront him. And I checked out the license, going to get a vendor license. It came back to the chief's house and this and that and the other thing. Everything was checked. So we're all set to almost confront the guy. And then one day, the police chief was behind the thing, we thought. And the police chief's car goes by and goes, like sounds the horn to whoever was behind the serving the hot dogs. I didn't know that the police chief had a twin.
Oh, wow.
3 days wasted.
Wow. Hey, Seth, when you first started, were you around in the day where you could pick what you wanted to play next? Could you use your music? Yeah.
I was.
Or at least add stuff that you wanted to play.
Right.
Or take a request from somebody. Yeah, but it's totally not like that anymore. Now there's a machine that does everything for you.
Exactly.
And it seems like it's almost like that in news, too. Like they're told what to say.
Right.
And it's just not the way that it used to be.
No.
And it sucks, to be honest with you.
I agree.
We got to take a quick break. Can you stick around for a few more minutes?
Sure.
All right. We'll be back with Paul Orlouski in about 2 minutes. Hang on. Hey, it's Seth from Mario's Barbershop in Parma, 7526 Broadview Road in the Pleasant Valley Shopping Center right next to Big Lots. You got to check out Mario, man. Great guy, does a lot for charities, but can perform miracles with hair. He even made me look clean cut. Does my hair, does a great job. Love talking to the guy while I'm sitting there. It's a great place to go, local business. You gotta go to Mario's Barbershop in Parma. Mario's Barbershop in Parma, 7526 Broadview Road. Again, in Parma, Pleasant Valley Shopping Center, right next to Big Lots. Or give them a call, 216-520-1977. That's 216-520-1977. Mario's Barbershop in Parma.
Trust Joe's Lakewood Computer at 14035 Madison in Lakewood. They have over 30 years of professional service handling laptop and desktop repair services, virus removal, and data migration, and much more. You can trust them with hardware updates to your computer's memory and hard drive. Call 216-651-3880. Whether you need a simple Windows install or you're interested in the latest computers for gaming, call Joe's Lakewood Computer at 216-651-3880.
This is Tim Elkhorn, radio voice of the Cleveland Cavaliers, for attorney Will Spiegelberg. Will Spiegelberg is not only a name you know, he's someone you can trust as your attorney, no matter the circumstance. Will Spiegelberg is an attorney you can always count on. Will Spiegelberg is the attorney you should contact for all your legal work. When you need an attorney, call Will Spiegelberg at 216-233-4240. Attorney Will Spiegelberg, a great teammate. 216-233-4240.
Right back here on the Seth Williams Show with Mike Yasaka, Paul Orlouski, our guest. Punched, kicked, spat on, and sometimes thanked is the book. You can get it in Drug Mart, Amazon. I suggest you pick it up. There's a lot of good short stories in there, which I like because it keeps my attention, people like me. But it's really actually, it's a good read. It's a lot of fun. It's very good. Scott had a question. Triv loved you, Paul. I shouldn't say liked like his text. He loved you, but not so much for Carl Monday. Why is that? Or maybe you'd not like to talk about it. I mean, I know why. Was Carl Monday a really good guy deep down? Because I know he pissed Triv off with the Coach for Kids story, and
Yeah.
It was not a good parting of the ways with those two. How was Carl Monday? One investigative reporter to another.
We were certainly competitors,
Yeah,
friends. And
I'm not asking you to talk crap. Don't get me wrong. I'm not asking that.
No, I understand. No, and you know, you've already summed it up. It was the falling out was the Coach for Kids story. But I mean, you know, when I got to town, what you wanted to be, if you wanted to be an investigative reporter, was Carl Monday or Tom Meyer.
Right.
And I got lucky in a way when I did a story about Cleveland police goofing off. So I got a lot of enemies too, or had a lot of enemies many years ago, who hate me just as much as that whole situation went with what Triv thought about Carl. And I did a story. 20 some police officers were suspended. They were hanging out at Deaconess Hospital goofing off. The name of the story was Car 224, Where Are You? And it was only named that because it sounded like Car 54, Where Are You?
Right.
Well, and the tip was cops are goofing off. Well, we went down there. We saw a couple of police cars at the emergency room, which is not at all unusual. But then we looked in the parking garage, and there were like maybe 7, 8 more, including supervisors. So we went back 3 or 4 nights, did the story. All these guys got suspended. 2 of the guys who happened to be in Car 224, I guess they thought I was targeting them. They weren't even named in the story. I didn't do anything. Police get 30 minutes off for lunch. I didn't do anything about anybody that was in there for a minimum of an hour and 10 minutes. Some of the guys were 4 hours, you know, taking the whole shift basically. So fine. So I do the story. 2 of the guys decided to pay me back. So they wrote fake tickets on me. Running a red light, almost hitting a pedestrian, and speeding on a Sunday morning down at right there by the federal courthouse. So what's that, West 3rd and Superior. And so the copy that would go to me, they threw in the garbage, put into the system. Well, after 30 days, an arrest warrant went out for me because I didn't show up for court. So I don't know how many, if it's 120 days, 180 days, whatever it was. It went a step farther, and I was put on the NCIC crime computer as a fugitive from justice. Another few months went by. I had no idea that, and luckily I never got stopped. I think they were hoping if I was, you know, vacationing someplace, I'd get stopped. It'd take a couple of days to figure that out. But anyway, one day I came out the front door of the station, and a city councilman was walking by, and he says, "Hey, you're in some trouble." I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "There's an arrest warrant out for you." I said, "Yeah, right." He goes, No, I'm not kidding. You got a lot of tickets?" I said, "I don't have any tickets." He goes, "Well, you better call the clerk of courts." So I called the clerk of courts, and he laughed too and said, "Hang on, let me go check." So he came back, and he says, "You better get over here." So I went over, and he had a blank piece of paper. He goes, "Here, sign your name." So I signed my name. Didn't match the signature. In fact, the 2 guys that wrote the tickets misspelled my name on the dumb ticket. And so the bottom line is CPD did a huge investigation. They figured out who the guys were. And there was a trial. After the first day, they all pled guilty. But it put me on the map. So being fairly new in town for those days, because fairly new in town in those days was 3 or 4 years, not 3 or 4, 30 months or 2
Right.
months.
Wow.
You know, it kind of put me on this. So I was kind of all of a sudden thought of a little bit like Carl or Tom. So, which is what you want to be. But back to the Triv situation with Carl, you know, you got to break some eggs to.
I was gonna say, sometimes you make enemies, I guess. But
I got a lot of them. You know, and then I had a guy one time. The guy that spit at me. He between my fax machine, answering machine, calling my phone, and all hours of the day and night, I couldn't get any work done. This guy was good at what he did. And then I told a couple cops about it, nothing. I told the FBI about it, nothing. Well, one night, he used to get drunk at night and tie me up because he was running a scam charity. I proved it. Eventually, the feds got involved and indicted the guy, and he did go to prison. But then he did something stupid, which I think sped up the FBI's interest in my story. One night, I think he'd been drinking. He calls the FBI office, and Van Harp was the head of the FBI office here in Cleveland at that time. And I knew Van because our sons went to college together. And so he called me, said, and he does his rant with the FBI. He'd done several to me that same night. And he said, at the end of it, he said, and one of these days, Harp, you're going to end up at the end of a rope. Not a good thing to say to the special agent.
Wow, yeah.
So he went to prison for both. But anyway, at a social gathering, I saw Van later. And I said, Van, I got a question for you. I said, this guy pesters me for a year. He makes one call to the FBI office and he goes away for 3.5 years. Now, how does that happen? And he said, Paul, it's a simple. I got a simple answer for you. I said, what's that? He goes, we're at different spots on the food chain. I love telling that story. He's a really good guy. He goes, I said, yeah, you're probably right. But that was the spit on guy. Oh, it was kind of funny because he had posters in the front of his charity with me with a Mickey Mouse hat, said Channel 3, and coming out of my mouth was duh, and holding a microphone. And a lot of people saw it. And so how am I going to get him to take those down? So I called him one day and I said, hey, can I get one of those? I really like those. He took them down the next day and got rid of them. Some. I wish we had more of these back then because I would take. Right. I wish I had. It was pretty funny, but so you make enemies. Yeah, there's no doubt. And then when he was going into court, well, the brother who's also in the thing was going into court when the main guy was going to be sentenced. So he's going up the steps, and as soon as he came around the corner, he said, F you, Mr. Orlouski. And I asked him a question, F you, F you, F you. So I said, he didn't know that his brother was going to prison that day. I did. And so I said, hey, did you bring a toothbrush for your brother? And he turned around and boom.
Oh.
And I turned my face just quick enough. He got me in the cheek. He didn't get me in the face. But so, some of my confrontations, I probably pushed the button a little too much there. Prince's bodyguard beat us up. I think I might have told you guys that story.
Oh, really?
We saw him at the airport. He went crazy. His bodyguard went crazy on this big, huge guy, 300 some pounds, 6'8", and so then he threw me like a softball. And the cameraman had a black eye. We went over to Agora where Prince was going to see his girlfriend Sheila E. And we wait, and here came the big guy again, and he's the first one out of the limo. So what do? Because I'm ticked off because I had bloody palms, bloody knees from where he threw me. And so he gets off the limo. So what do? I go, ah. Oh, man, he was like a bull in a china shop. Come on. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, jeez.
Wow.
Anyway. But so, sometimes I should have watched my mouth.
Well, no, I think you probably should have sued the hell out of him.
I think there was a third cameraman there who had a ligament torn in his arm because those cameras were heavy in those days. And he pushed the camera and he tore a ligament in his arm. There was a settlement. It was sealed. I don't know what it was. But yeah, he did sue. But I had a torn pair of pants and a great story.
It's a good story, but still, I don't know.
You should donate those to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, you're right. I wish I still had them.
All right, the book is called Punched, Kicked, Spat On, and Sometimes Thanked. Paul Orlouski, I want to thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
It's no problem. I think Barnes & Noble has it as well.
Barnes & Noble, Drug Mart, Amazon.
All over the state, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a light read. It's just funny, goofy stuff.
What are you doing these days? Because, do you have any book signings coming up?
No, I just did one at the Solon Library.
Yeah.
Last week. They're opening up. The book came out right at the peak of COVID. So all the book signings canceled.
Yeah.
And the other thing, some big companies stopped doing regional books, like Costco, among others. But the book sold fine. And now finally, this is opening up again, the book signings and things. I'm doing one over at, just St. Joseph's here in Avon Lake, just at noon on Wednesday. But that's just, just for the over 50 crowd. I teased with the deacon. I said, well, you're going to have to give me a pass, because you got to be over 50 to get in. Right? Yeah, right.
Is that who you interviewed the other day? Because I saw you interviewed, I think, a priest or somebody. It was on your Facebook page.
Oh, yeah. That was, different guy.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing a show for the Catholic radio station, WCCR. It's the old Wixie 1260.
Okay.
But that's, it's a kind of a part-time thing. It's not a volunteer job. I go down on the first Tuesday of the month. I record 4 or 5 shows, and they are on Sundays and Wednesdays, and then some book stuff and this and that, and just volunteer here and there. I've had a very blessed life, so I have no complaints. I anybody my age, Carl, Tom, and I all retired like within a year because the game was changing, and we got the sweet years out of it, and we know we did. And so we're just, I don't mean to speak for them, I think we're just thankful for it. It was a wonderful way to make a living, a lot of stress, a lot of hours, a lot of overtime. And my wife had to pick up the pieces during a lot of it. And I talk some about that in the book as well. It worked.
I think you're going to see a lot of news changing. I really do. I think some of these, unfortunately, some of the weather people that we have in this town that I think are really good are going to be long gone because, again, the money just isn't going to be there. And eventually, they're going to bring some of these kids in that will do it for a quarter of what they're paying.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because I see the same thing with radio. I see radio, which was so great.
Yeah.
And now it's a dwindling, dying enterprise. And it's unfortunate, but I think local news is heading in that direction. Hopefully it changes. Hopefully somebody changes what's going on. But I think it's going to be a tough road ahead.
That's unfortunate, in my humble view.
Yeah, Gunnar says, thanks, Paul, for supporting Seth and Michael, what they're trying to do here. Yeah, we thank you for coming on. We
really appreciate it.
No, you guys are all right to talk to.
Well, we appreciate it. Pick up the book, Paul Orlouski, Punched, Kicked, Spat On, and Sometimes Thanked. Get the book, Memoirs of a Cleveland TV News Reporter. Again, thank you, Paul. So
I'll end with a quick story. Somebody will call the house and they say, well, maybe my wife answers, used to answer the house phone, but cell phone or whatever. And they say, hey, we're having a luncheon. Will Paul MC it? And she goes, yeah, he'll do it. She goes, well, check with his schedule. No, he'll do it. She goes, well, we'll check with his schedule. She goes, no, he'll do it. And I said, well, how do you know he'll do it? Because he loves talking about himself.
Well,
you guys have figured that out as well.
Well, I love you, and we've been friends for quite some time, and I thank you for coming on and joining us. And if Mike ever needs a night off, have your phone by you because I would love to have you on again. So,
well, both of you guys have been great friends to me. You with the Triv show, and of course, Michael kind of maybe pointing me the way down at the Justice Center sometimes, and maybe at other times the error of my ways.
No, it was good to see coverage that was honest coming out of the courtroom when an awful lot of other people that were down there seemed to have an angle. You just were interested in telling it like it was, and it's always been your calling card. And
I hope so.
Good to know.
I miss it. I do miss the Justice Center because criminal defense. I mean, you can tell a criminal defense guy from a civil guy from three blocks away. Those guys come with all of their documents and all this. The criminal defense guys are a colorful bunch and just a fun bunch of guys to talk to and to learn from.
There you go.
Well, thanks, Paul. We got to wrap things up in just a few. We're going to take our last break of the night. So thank you, Paul. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Anytime.
All right. We'll be right back in about 2 minutes. Hang on. Hey, it's Seth for Smoking Rock and Roll Food Trucks. You got to check them out, man. The food is just unbelievable. Mac and cheese is fantastic. The brisket, everything else is just to die for. You got to check out Smoking Rock and Roll. 605 Clague Parkway in Bay Village. You can give them a call, 216-539-2239 to book a food truck. Find out where they're going to be at. They're going to be all over the place, especially when the spring and summer hits. It's unbelievable food. They win awards all over the place. Run by my good friend Billy Morris and his friend Todd. They're good people, and they make great food. You got to check it out. Smoking Rock and Roll, SmokingRockandRoll.com.
Aaron Tees and Signs has become your complete one-stop sign shop. Call Jimmy at 216-299-9344. Their friendly and professional staff can and will help you build your company brand and identity from start to finish. One stop means you get a complete package from one location. Custom logo design, vehicle graphics, banners, t-shirts, storefront marquees, and so much more. Aaron Tees and Signs, 4883 Turney Road. Call us at 216-299-9344.
Hey, it's Seth for Audio Bay Studios in Bay Village. And now if you need a podcast done, you got a band, you got to record some stuff, Audio Bay Studios is the place to go. Trained technicians, good management there. I'm telling you, Audio Bay Studios has helped me out tremendously with my podcast. You want to go there, Audio Bay Studios, 605 Clegg Parkway in Bay Village. It's right next to, or in the same building, I should say, as Smokin' Rock and Roll. Some of the best barbecue food trucks in town. The best barbecue food trucks in town. I'm telling you, you got to check out Audio Bay Studios. I know the guy, Chris Aiken. I know the guy, Billy Morris. They're good people. They take care of you. Audio Bay Studios. If you got a podcast that you want to start recording, Audio Bay Studios in Bay Village is the place to be. 605 Clegg Parkway. Give them a call. 216-713-0066. That's 216-713-0066. All right, back here on the Seth Williams Show with Mike Jasaka. We're wrapping things up here in just a couple minutes. Thanks again to Paul Orlouski for coming on. Punched, Kicked, Spat On, Sometimes Thanked, Memoirs of a Cleveland TV news reporter. Get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, he said, Drug Mart. It's a fun read. It really is. It's a good book. But thanks to him for coming on, spending a lot of time with us. It was good. I enjoyed being with him.
Always.
Got some house cleaning stuff to get to in just a few, some keeping stuff, I should say. Some good stuff coming up in the next week. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But one thing that Paul brought up was an informed electorate is how we're going to change things. And let me show you an example of what's out there now. This is the electorate. This is the youth. These are the people that are going to be voting in the upcoming elections, deciding who's in charge of this country.
How long does each president serve their term?
I really don't know.
Take a guess, around how long?
Like time?
Yeah.
An hour?
No, like years.
Oh, I said time and you said yeah.
Yeah, like how...
7.
Yes, I'm sorry for confusing you. What language do the people in Idaho speak?
I don't know.
You've never been?
Nope.
How many make up 1 dozen?
Like 5, 4. I don't know.
Take a guess, what number?
10.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's not the only video out there. Those videos are all over the place of people that just don't know crap about what the hell is going on.
About anything. We could do a show where all you did was push the start button and let it play for 2 hours.
Yeah, and just leave. Yeah, we could just go out to dinner, come back, and you could have videos the entire time. Because
and then, like you said, those
what's
people
happening.
vote. Yeah, these people vote and breed, and we wonder why the world is the way it is today.
And to be honest with you, it's not just stupid people, because those people were stupid. But it's people that are somewhat smart and educated, but they're not learning the things that they should learn. I told a story a couple weeks ago about a teenager who asked if President's Day was an American holiday.
Yeah.
Well,
why?
Yes, and this wasn't a stupid kid. Products of our fine education system. That's the problem. It really is.
But
I think, anyways.
I think it's part of the problem, because that means that their parents don't care that they're stupid either. Because my dad and my mom made sure I read a book. My mom and my dad made sure that we watched the news in the house. My mom and my dad made sure we all sat around the dinner table. We discussed what was going on in the world. My mom and my dad asked me every night, do you have homework? And if I said no, they said, why not? You can't, these kids, if it shouldn't be growing up in a vacuum. And if you don't want to take the time and you don't want to invest the effort, and you're really not demanding that your kids learn a complete set of values, then don't have kids.
What happens when you don't teach history or civics and government in schools? Not stupid, they're ignorant. And I agree with that. That's part of the problem.
We teach to take tests. Standardized testing is the worst part. We don't teach philosophy. We don't teach logic. We don't teach advanced math. We don't teach kids how to think. We teach kids what to think, and that's wrong. That's dead wrong.
Absolutely.
And that goes to what, that goes to what I've said before about both sides and need something new. We do. We need a new way to look at stuff. Paul said, there isn't even a common denominator as far as, well, I'll be honest. Let's even share, Seth. We've been trying for how many months to get a segment on the air that talks about current events and what's going on in town, because that doesn't exist anymore. Nobody gets a plain dealer with a Friday section that lists all the activities.
There's no more Scene magazine out there. There's no more Scene magazine telling you what to do with everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would be great if somebody would sponsor it, because we have it ready to go. But yeah, you're right. It's a different world that we live in, and Natalie says parents are the biggest problem, that these kids are the way that they are.
I agree.
I think that's definitely some of it, but again, I'm the father of a 16-year-old, and let me tell you, some of the things that she thinks she didn't learn in this household, that's for damn sure.
Right.
They're being taught that stuff somewhere else, and whether it's the phone with all the internet stuff, or whether it's at school, or whether it's their friends, it's certainly not here. And my daughter is far from stupid. She's one of the smartest people I know. And we teach her, and she learns, and she does really well in school. And she's got a job, and she works hard. And she's a sweet, good kid. But there's a lot of things that she thinks and knows that ain't being taught here.
Right. You and I both grew up in a household that had a family phone. Now, if there's 6 people in a family, all 6 people have their own phone number.
Yeah.
And you can do your best to try to raise your kid, but when he's outside the house, that phone will take him anywhere. I don't know how parents even keep up anymore with all there is to do and so on and so forth. But with what's out there in the cesspool of social media, between mental illness, between suicide, between all the stuff I never knew of any of that stuff with the kids that I went to school with in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. But now it's like, I don't know. I hope the pendulum swings backwards and people need interpersonal communication. I saw a thing this past week, 2 things. Number one, only 21% of the 16-year-olds even want to get a driver's license. When you and I were in high school, you couldn't wait to get your driver's license.
Oh, yeah. That was the first thing I wanted to do.
2, 63% of the youth of today prefer texting to a phone call.
Yes.
And like I said, I spent the weekend at a funeral in Ashland with a big, huge extended family that I'm a new part of. And one of the kids who's got a scholarship to a college looked at me and said, I'd much rather just text my friends. I hate talking to them on the phone.
Yeah, I actually know people
Wow.
that will send me a text. And then because I don't like texting back. I hate it. I think it's just annoying.
Yeah.
And so I call them immediately. And as soon as I got the text, I call them immediately. And they don't answer the phone.
Right.
So I'll send a text saying, all right, here's the answer, but why didn't you pick up your phone? And they just respond via text. And they don't tell me why they didn't answer the phone. They don't want to answer the damn phone. Pick up the phone when I call you. And then there are so many people that have cell phones. I know you have your cell phone on you. I know these people don't leave the house without their cell phone. And again, they don't answer the phone. And I'm not calling you because I want to see how your day is going. If I'm calling you, it's for an important reason.
And for those people,
I want to check in on you to see how you're feeling. It's because I have a reason for calling you. Pick up your phone.
Yeah. And for those people that still, after all the time we've been on the air, are still wondering what I mean when I say it's both sides and something else, this, that, and the other thing. Here's another example. When you pick up the phone sometimes and it's ringing, it will say potential spam. Well, if your phone knows this, why is the call coming through?
Yeah.
Because they still want to make money off of it. If they know it's potential spam, then keep it out of my phone.
All right, we're going to wrap things up. I got to go. I'm going to the rec center tonight.
Cool. Good for you.
Yeah, I've been going there now for a while, but during the holidays, got a little bit off track, but now I've been going for the past couple of weeks every day.
Good.
And so I'm going to hit that up before they close. And but a couple of different things going on. Wednesday, we're going to be talking with, of course, Tony Masaccio, our restaurant reporter, will be live from another great place to eat. Looking forward to that. And Eric Ferentinos will be joining us. He's a guitarist, longtime guitarist for Stephen Piercy from Rat. Should be fun. He's a good guy. Does a lot of stuff with the CMS network. We'll talk to him. He actually had a heart attack here in Ohio at a concert. We'll talk to him about that and many other things. Then Monday next week, we're going to be talking with Jim Scott about climate. Have a little debate over climate change with you and Jim Scott, first-time caller Jim from Triv Show, if you don't know him. Also working on an interview for Monday, Ricky Byrd, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. Actually in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, toured with Roger Daltrey from The Who and a whole bunch of other people. Looking forward to that. And then next Wednesday, we're going to have comedian Dave Landau on. He's been on Comedy Central, NBC, networks worldwide. Very funny guy. Dave Landau will be on the show next Wednesday. So there's a lot going on. A lot of stuff to pay attention to. Check out the website, thesethwilliamsshow.com. You can get shirts there. You get free stickers there. And you can also listen. There's a listen button on there now that you can listen and not see us, which is good for a lot of people. But you can listen in your car while you're driving. Hook up your phone to your car. And, of course, you can listen to the show. It works on your while your screen is locked. So check that out as well. Thanks, Mike.
Most importantly, too, have everybody share this show because we're getting really, really close to being able to do all kinds of things. And we got 1 week left on the Facebook band, but you can check us out on CMS TV or Amazon TV or Fire Stick, all that kind of stuff. So have a good night, Mike. Thank you again.
You too.
God
Seth.
willing, we will talk to you on Wednesday night.
Take care,
Have a great
everybody.
one. We'll see.
Good night.